Welcome back, everybody, and happy day, wherever you are, whatever day it is that you're watching this. It is currently Wednesday here in Washington, D.C. at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, and I'm super excited because today's episode, I'm out in the woods, but I'm not here reporting live. I'm here interviewing live alongside my sister from another Mr. Rawaniya, all the way in Canada, because today we are interviewing a dear friend of mine. He and I shared the TEDx stage in Rockville back in 2021 together. He is a mountaineer, he is a founder, he is a leadership coach, he is a human that just leads with good intention. His story is incredible. About him specifically, and I know that you, Ra, will totally resonate with him, is that he uses the manifestation of like our physical selves and physical sort of goal setting to really help accomplish so much and help other people accomplish so much in life. So without further ado, Rawaniya, hello, my darling. How are you?
Hello, and hello, Andrew. Welcome. We're so excited to have you here. Thank you for coming on.
I'm the guest. That introduction was for me.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness! Thank you so much. It's great to reconnect. We should have done this in person, but it's wonderful to see you again.
Well, it's funny because you're only 40 minutes away from us up in
I know.
Baltimore,
Right.
and obviously I live down here in DC, and Ra is over in Canada. But this is how we roll. This is the benefits, I think, of having technology, connecting people who just are so focused on the same mission and vision. Can you tell people a little bit more about like what even got you into doing mountaineering, and how did that transition into what you do as a speaker and a coach and a mentor?
Yeah. So I've always been sort of into the outdoors. Since I was young, I always liked being outside playing. I went to undergrad at University of Vermont, just did a lot of hiking and skiing and backpacking there. And from there, very stressful. Speaking of stress, it was a very stressful 4 years in undergrad. So moved to Aspen, Colorado, became a professional ski instructor, did a lot of hiking and climbing there. And then, since life is so stressful, I had moved to Boulder, Colorado to decompress and get my MBA at CU Boulder. So I was out there getting my MBA, and I learned a lot in the classroom. I really did, from the professors and from my fellow classmates. But I also learned a lot in the mountains. That I was open my mind, and I let the mountains teach me a lot about life, about overcoming obstacles. And when I finished, I just kept climbing. I'm like, okay, what's next? I climbed in Colorado what's called the 14ers, the 14,000-foot mountains. So I said, oh, what's after that? And so started climbing like places like Mount Rainier. I'm like, oh, what's bigger than that? And started climbing, 20,000-foot peaks down in Ecuador. And so it just kept going from there. And then when my sister got sick with metastatic breast cancer, I said, well, what if, we kind of charged our friends $5,000 to come climbing with us? And I'm not a very good climber. I need to, unfortunately, burst all of your listeners' bubbles that I'm not some great mountaineer. I'm just a guy who likes mountaineering. There's a person that likes running, running 5Ks, and there's runners. And so I'm like the guy that just goes out and runs. I just go and climb mountains. And we've raised over $1 million for disease research by climbing different mountains. And so I keep doing that. And then the lessons that I learned going back into these mountains time after time taught me important lessons about life back at sea level, taught me about my personal life, about business. And I just started sharing those stories with other entrepreneurs, and that seemed to resonate.
Gosh, what an incredible achievement to raise $1 million for disease research, in honor of what your sister experienced. Can you tell us a bit more? You mentioned going into the mountains and that being something that really supported you with your stress and everything like that. What are some of the key things, or what do you think is the thing that going into that space or mountaineering has really given you in your own well-being, when it comes to your own personal well-being, where you now want to share it with others?
Well, yeah, there's so many things. I know we're limited to 2-3 hours today, so I'll just list a few.
He's got jokes.
Just first of all, I'm very fortunate. I've been on a lot of podcasts around similar topics, and they all said, just give us what you could, give somebody one thing. What's the one thing you'd leave our listeners with if that maybe is in a bad place? I said, go outside, go outside, and move. You don't have to climb a mountain. You don't have to run a marathon. Just walk. Get sunlight in your eyes. Get a breeze in your face, and just move and get outside. That would solve so much of our anxiety, so much of our depression. Not cure all of it, but it certainly helps. Obviously talk therapy and medication is so important, as is just getting outside and moving. So that's just the first thing. Just go outside. I don't care where you are. Go to a garden, go to a forest. The second thing is, as I said, I'm not a good climber. And I said I like climbing, but I guess I like the idea of climbing. It's like a woman who gives birth, right? They like the idea of having a baby. They don't like giving birth. And so I love the idea of climbing. And it's very similar to giving birth, I imagine, where it's a horrible experience. It's an awful, you're in pain for days on end. It's an awful, you get down from the mountain like, oh my God, I can't wait to do that again. That was great. Oh my God, when are we going back to climbing again? Climbing for me is so hard. I'm not a very strong person, so it's hard carrying a 45-pound pack up a steep mountain with crampons on an ice axe. And it's cold, and I just hate the cold. So I'm in my sleeping bag at night, shivering, and you have to eat your meals in a tent in my sleeping bag, and it's hard to cook the meals, and everything is hard. Going to the bathroom, they don't talk about going to the bathroom climbing. It's so hard, and we got trapped in our tents one time. For 30 hours, 30 hours, with 50-mile-an-hour winds and sub-zero temperatures. And it was just so cold and miserable. Trying to get a cup of coffee, you got to dig out the snow and you got to boil the water and melt it. So everything was so hard, and the tent is hitting us in the head and you can't sleep. And you know something? I got back home and I got back to my bed, and I just was so thankful for a bed that was warm, and a blanket and a down pillow under my head. And 10 feet away from me was a bathroom with a seat and a door, and it was warm. I mean, trying to go pee in 50-mile-an-hour winds is just not a good experience. And so every little thing is so hard at altitude, where everything is so easy at sea level. So every night when I lay my head on that down pillow, I'm thankful to have a bed, a pillow, and a bathroom. Yeah, it makes me so grateful for what I have.
It's you're bringing back memories from me. I mean, I've never done anything to that. Robert and I are both from New Zealand originally. And I don't know if you're aware, but New Zealand has 12 great walks, of which I was privileged to do one with our shared friend from CrossFit. And I say this all to mean a couple of things. One of the lessons that I've learned at both doing CrossFit and climbing this mountain with our mutual friend is, the mindset thing, right? But also at the same time, there's nothing quite like the feeling of being close to something spiritual. There's like a spiritual connection we have with our earth, with the world around us, I think, when we are challenging ourselves to that extent. I read somewhere a few years back that the smell of decomposing nature can also serve as like an antidepressant. And so I love everything that you speak about when it comes to just using nature, using outdoors, using the world around us as our playground, as we overcome those mental blocks a little bit. Can you speak a little bit about maybe coming to the other side of it, not necessarily just having gratitude for a bed, but what are some of the things that you've got in mountaineering and that you've applied to your new business that you founded a few years back?
Right. Yes. So climbing mountains is it's a major undertaking, and it's a challenge in so many levels, right? You're carrying a heavy pack up a steep mountain, and sometimes for days, and And if you're lucky enough to get to high altitude, then you have all the altitude challenges. And so it's a very demanding. I've done a 5-day expedition, so it could be, a very demanding, 3 to 5 day time frame, and so that presents challenges every day. And so, having carried your gear from, say, camp 1 to camp 2, carrying 45 to 50 pounds up 3,000 vertical feet at 14,000 feet is very hard. And what a sense of accomplishment to do that kind of thing. At sea level, I'm happy to go for 45 minutes on the Stairmaster with nothing on my back, but to carry all this gear and overcome this very physical thing, it's people have done it with us and going, oh my gosh, that was harder than doing a marathon. And so the sense of accomplishment you get from this workout is unbelievable, right? So anytime you get any kind of workout, significant workout, some kind of major endurance challenge, it's so rewarding. No one ever finishes a marathon. Oh my gosh, that was a waste of time. It's incredible how you feel. Even though if you feel like poop afterwards, it makes you feel good mentally having done that. So that's the first thing. And every single time you're climbing, you're in the mountains, and so you're in a place that 99% of the world would do anything to get to. It's not necessarily climb, but one of the expeditions that we do with Jodi's Climb for Hope is we do the rim to rim to rim of the Grand Canyon. And so we drop down 3,000 vertical feet, go 23 miles across, up 4,000 vertical feet out, and then turn around and go back the next day. So we're doing 44 miles and climbing 14,000 vertical feet over 2 days. And coming out, you're tired. It's been a rough couple of days. You're not sleeping a lot, and you're tired, and you just want to be done. You just want to get out, grab a shower and a beer, and just kind of celebrate with the team that we're out of there. And so I'm just like, I am done. I just want to be finished. I turn around in the Grand Canyon, and the sun is setting, and the incredible beauty of the canyon is lighting up in my favorite golden hour. And I'm going, what am I doing? What am I doing? Why am I rushing out of this place? Probably 5 billion people would give to be where I am right now. And so when you're outside, it's incredible, whether you believe in a God or a higher power, whatever it is. Every mountain that I've been on has been gorgeous. It's just the views, and you're talking about being humbling, right? You're this tiny little thing on a 14, 15, 18,000 foot mountain. And it gives you a perspective how small we are, how small our problems are. And knowing that, something, this too will pass. I was coming to the Grand Canyon this past year, and the guides were telling us that this rock is 2 billion years old, this rock is 1 billion years old. And I was going through there, and I was kind of feeling sorry a little bit for myself because I lost my sister and I miss her, and just thinking, something, in 1 billion years, no one's really going to care about me, my sister, what we've done. So why should I worry about, something bad and what happened at work, or something went wrong, or I'm stressing or I'm anxious about this little thing? It just doesn't matter in the big scheme of things. So the mountains, the history, the rock, and the beauty puts so much in perspective for people.
Gosh, you highlighted so many important things in there from like a mental well-being perspective. Like first, like I really love how you describe how challenging and hard it is to be able to be on these different expeditions and to go mountaineering. And I think a lot of people these days like avoid doing what is hard. Like we're seeking short-term pleasure, like we want it to be quick, versus like how you describe that feeling of accomplishment that comes from like having done something that's really hard and really challenging. And when you think to yourself, like, maybe I can't do this, but then like you get to the end and you're like, okay, wow, like I did just overcome like this big like hurdle and I climbed this massive mountain. And what comes from that But then also too, when you spoke about the presence, like when you're in nature, like for those of you who do spend lots of time in nature, like you do feel really connected. You do feel present to what's around you. And it really allows you to kind of just like let go of, you know, some of those worries that you were talking about, right? Like feeling stressed about work or what's going on. It's like, actually, when I can be here in this moment and appreciate the sunset, like you were talking about, like there's so much beauty in that, being able to really enjoy where you are instead of running at 1,000,000 miles an hour, trying to kind of keep up with everyone else, versus actually, you know what, can I appreciate life as it is right now, right?
Exactly. Yeah, when we're climbing, we try to do that, right? You start out and you got a major day ahead of you. Sometimes it's, 8-hour day and it's a lot. And so I make sure that we stop, turn around and go, oh my goodness, look how much ground we've covered. We've covered so much ground. Let's take that in. Let's just appreciate how much don't worry about how far we have to go. Let's just celebrate how far we've come thus far.
Yeah,
So
that's simple, because I think too, so many people are worried about like how much ground they've still got to cover, right? Versus actually like, what have I done? What have I achieved? Look at all these steps that I've taken. And, it's such a simple thing for us to do. But I also notice this in my clients, like a lot of people are so focused on their goals and what they're trying to achieve, which is great, right? But then what that does is it creates that stress and it creates that worry, versus, okay, can I also celebrate like all these things that I've achieved along the way, which are going to be the thing that adds up to me being able to get to here and where it is that I'm working towards in the future. So yeah.
we get on these hamster wheels, and it's just we're never happy because the wheel we never get anywhere on these wheels. And so, gosh, I want a promotion. I need to make more money. My kids aren't perfect, and my husband's not perfect. My wife's not perfect. We have to get better and better. No, let's just stop a second. Okay, let's just stop. We've just climbed 3,000 feet, and look at the gorgeous view we have. It's even better than the gorgeous view that we had this morning. And hopefully, we'll get to the summit. But if we don't, look at how far we've come. So
one of the things. Oh, sorry.
One of the
things I because after sharing the stage with you at TEDx and Rock here, one of the things that I resonated with personally, and that I know that a lot of the people that you speak to on a regular basis resonate with a lot, is the idea of constantly sort of not just pushing past your comfort zone in life, but also you give people tools to like mental tools and sort of emotional tools, whatever, to really help them recognize the strength that they have in themselves. And gratitude is obviously something that you're really passionate about, and hindsight and perspective. Do you have any other kind of ideas or again, tools that people can, really take away with them when it comes to doing the hard stuff, when it comes to pushing past those mental mind blocks, when it starting a business, which you've done with Be More Organics, for example, which is kicking butt and taking names. How do you impart that knowledge and wisdom on your audiences?
Yeah, so I take some lessons that I like to go. I have the book that I wrote has a number of lessons. So when I speak to an audience, I'll talk about 3 to 5 of the most relevant ones. And one of the fan favorites tends to be what you're referring to, which was getting comfortable being uncomfortable. And we kind of alluded to, our lives are so comfortable here at sea level, and modern society is so ridiculously so much comfort in our daily lives that we're not used to being uncomfortable. And so it's kind of like we lose that muscle. And I've kind of, after giving this talk, I've kind of done a deep dive into this whole topic. And it's been so fascinating about how we're getting past that evolutionary stages of comfort. You think about, if you look at like anesthesia, that's only about 100 years old. You know, they were cutting people's arms off in World War II without anesthesia. Now you go to the dentist and you don't feel a thing. I mean, I had surgery. I'm like, when are you guys going to start doing something? We have so few discomforts now. You know, if I rented a car and it's blowing, the seats are air conditioned. God forbid my back gets sweaty. Everything we don't, and I've studied it, and it's so bad for us physically, right? Because we're supposed to be cold, and we have this fat that babies have. It's called a brown fat, and it's super good for us. It helps us with so many things that brown fat does, but it disappears because we never get cold. You know, I'm guilty of it myself. I walk my dog and I put on my warmest climbing clothes. I'm never cold walking the dog. We never get too hot because we sit on our chairs and we use our nests. God forbid we get cold. I mean, too hot. So we're losing getting heat. You know, that's why people are going to saunas now, because the heat is really good for us. So extreme heat, extreme cold is good for us physically, but it's also good for us mentally to get comfortable. And so as these modern comforts are bad for our bodies and they're bad for our minds. And so I just encourage people to get comfortable being uncomfortable. You don't have to climb a mountain. You know, if you could run a marathon, but if you've never run a marathon, guess what? Sign up for your first 5K. Finish the 5K and sign up for a 10K. You could take a cold bath. You could take a sauna. There's so many very easy things to do to get comfortable being uncomfortable. There's a part of our brains called the anterior. I'm sorry, I'm not a brain surgeon, but as you are, but the anterior mid-cingulate cortex, AMCC, and the research shows that if you just stress that part of your brain 30 seconds a day, 3 times a week, it helps you become more mentally resilient. Mm-hmm. So if you're a runner and you enjoy running, it doesn't help. But if you're a runner and you sprint the last 30 seconds to 1 minute, it helps that part of that brain. And people with larger parts of that brain are more mentally resilient and live longer lives. Studying a different language, learning a new instrument, all these things that are stressful are really good for us. And so do things that make us uncomfortable.
I love that. I love that so much. There's a saying of, push your comfort zone every day or whatever. Do something every day that makes you uncomfortable. I think I'm at the point in my life where very few things make me uncomfortable, but marathons definitely make me uncomfortable.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
you are inspiring me to.
Good. Yeah, I mean, we can put some suggestions in the show notes, but there's simple ones like, we have to snack. Parents, oh my gosh, my kid better have, packing some pretzels. He's going to starve to death. We're not supposed to snack. It's really bad for us. We're supposed to go, 14 hours without food, and so don't pack a snack. Right? Eat breakfast, eat lunch, and eat dinner. You don't need to pack a lunch all the time or snacks. There's so many things that we can do that make us uncomfortable. It's good to be a little hungry. It's good for us physically, and it's also really good for our minds. So yeah, there's all these little things that we can do in our daily lives to make us more mentally resilient. So when things get difficult, something like a COVID or something more challenging in life, we're ready for it.
I really love that, because it's the skill of what's called mental flexibility. And what I notice in a lot of people at the moment is, like you say, a lot of people are very comfortable. And so when something happens that is perhaps outside of that, then it really throws them and they're not able to respond, right? They're not actually able to handle what life is giving them. Versus when you can teach yourself to do this daily through almost giving yourself these little tiny stresses which you can control, right? It then better prepares you for when something big happens like that.
Yes.
And I'm smiling because I'm here for all of it, because I'm also a CrossFit coach. And
you are, oh yes, so yes.
And so CrossFit really taught me so much about being able to push through your boundaries and getting comfortable and being uncomfortable. So yeah, everything that you're saying, I'm just smiling. So I'm absolutely, I totally agree.
Well, speaking of coaching, that's another thing that I talked about, which is, finding a guide. I'm a horrible climber. I'm just so bad at it. If I ever get to this place where I've got to fix these ropes, or I have to navigate through this really challenging crevasse section, or go through this one place at night, I'm the wrong guy to do that. So we always have a guide. My theory is to live to climb again, and so I'm not afraid to bring my guides out there to help us on an expedition. Our goal isn't to get to the summit. Our goal is to get back to our families safely. Raising money is really what our goal is. It's not to get to the summit. We would love to get those flags to the summit, but it's not always necessary. What's necessary is getting back. So I have a guide to make sure I'm back to see my family. But it's in life, it's so important too. Get a guide. Get a guide. Get a coach. Hey, I don't know anything about working out. I'm going to call you. Do you mind? Hey, can you tell me? Can you give me a quick CrossFit workout for I should do the next couple of weeks?
She's here for it. She's here for it.
You know what I mean? And I call my friend Ben, and I said, dude, give me a workout. Ben gives me a workout. Hey Ben, how much protein should I eat? So I've got so many guides now. I've got my health and fitness guide. I've got my business mentor guide. I've got my marriage gets rocky. We have to pay for the marriage coach, but we call and actually pay for a coach to get our marriage back on track. And so there's so many aspects of our lives that we're afraid to ask for help. Oh gosh, I'm a big, strong, tough mountain climber. I don't ask for help. Oh yeah, I do. Right? Asking for help is a sign of strength and not a sign of weakness. And so people should not be afraid to ask for help, whether it's mental health therapy or it's a business coach to help you get back on track, keep you out of the crevasses. Yeah. Don't be afraid to ask for help.
It's funny, the alignment of this conversation, because I literally was having this conversation this morning where, there's this it drives me absolutely wild, this idea or this mentality that we need to learn in order to be successful. And that is completely false. It's together we are stronger. Together everyone achieves more. Like the people that you surround yourself with absolutely feed into who you are. And talking about what you're saying before, Ra, about pushing your boundaries and allowing yourself to be uncomfortable as well. I see it all the time with my own clients. Although I don't teach CrossFit, I left that with Ra. But teaching empowerment through songwriting, I notice a lot of the clients I work with, they're uncomfortable not knowing things. And so I think that feeds really beautifully into, needing to have a coach and the importance of having a supportive community around us where it's okay to not know, or if I push it even further, it's okay to stop and think about things and really revel in that discomfort as you come to your own ideas or your own manifestations or your own conclusions about life, which I think is something really, really important when it comes to physical health and mental health and emotional stability as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Do I have time to mention one more thing that I'd like to do, or no? Do you have time?
Of course. Please. Oh, okay, I want to hear more about your book. But no, tell us all. Please.
Sleep is so important for so many things. So it's a great thing to help you fall asleep. You read my book and it puts you right to sleep. It's awesome. So it's been very beneficial to people. So one of the things that I also like to do, we talked about getting the flags. So we carry flags with us. The longer story is that we were climbing Kilimanjaro, and so it's an amazing 6-day expedition, including one rest day, up 5 different climatic zones, and it's just an amazing trip that we took, and we kept leapfrogging this one particular group, and we didn't really talk to the group, but we just kind of said hello each day, and then we'd leapfrog each other, and then we got to the highest point of the continent of Africa at 19,400 feet, and then 2 days back down. And we came back down, got the first shower we had in 9 days, and celebrated over a cocktail overlooking the gorgeous Serengeti. And I ran into somebody on the other team as we were celebrating raising about $250,000 for disease research. And I said, hey, how did it go? And they said, well, 12 of the 24 of us made it. And I'm thinking, all 24 of our team made it. What the heck happened? Well, Billy's feet got cold, so Tracy took him down, and then Eric got tired, so Stacy took him down. And I'm like, what? I had a flag in my pack that said, "Stay strong, JB, giving my sister hope to live one more month, one more week, one more day to be with her gorgeous children." We had thank you flags that people who helped us raise that $250,000. We had names of people we promised we'd get their loved ones' names as some they lost their lives. We had other people's names in our packs that we had on flags that we said we're going to get them to the summit, give them hope, that we'd raise money fast enough. And so what that taught me was the value of those flags that had our logo on it, that had people's names. And what those flags were a mission. Our mission was written on those flags to get those flags to the summit. And that taught me the value of a mission. So everything I do in my life has a mission. Every business that I help run or that I have run, the mission is front and center. Everything is about that mission. That's where it starts. Because Mark Twain said the two most important days in a person's life, the day they're born and the day they figure out why. And I've been blessed that I know why I walk this earth every single day, is to help take a bite out of disease so that other families can live more fulfilling lives. You know, Nietzsche said, anybody who has a why to live can overcome any how. And so we can all climb our figurative Mount Everest when our mission, why is big enough. So having a sense of purpose is so important in our lives. You know, where I ran my business, it was so hard. Running a business, you know, all of us entrepreneurs, I don't need to tell the stories. It's brutal. And some days I just did not want to get out of bed. I'm like, I'm done. But our mission of our business was to help take a bite out of disease. And I had to put this healthy protein drink on the store shelves. So I made sure that I took those covers off my head and put both feet on the floor. And so we all have bad days, and you're going to have bad days, but if you have a mission, you have a reason to get out of bed. So it's just truth. You know, my mother died when I was a child, when I was a year old. My dad died when I was 33. My sister died when I was 44, and my wife, 6 months after we were married, was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. So I've been given the great gift of knowing my purpose in life, which is to help take a bite out of disease. So I was gifted through those tragedies. Marcus Aurelius said, "It is fortunate that this happened to me," the great Stoic philosopher. It is fortunate those tragedies happened to me because now I know why I'm here. And maybe someone else wasn't gifted with those tragedies and doesn't know their sense of purpose yet. But there's a lot of ways to find a sense of purpose. Get involved with your church. Get involved with a community. Living a life of service gives you a sense of purpose. That's why these poor military vets come out of the military and have a hard time, because they're there. They're literally carrying those flags. They've got a sense of purpose, and now it's gone. And they don't have a purpose anymore. Having a purpose gets you through so much. So there's so many ways to help find your purpose, whether it's through, you know, a coach, reading the book, Start With Why, which is a fabulous book by Simon Sinek, or just serve others.
I think this is why you and I connect so, and why I'm so honored to continue to call you a friend. I really, really appreciate your insights and your aroha and your what's the word I'm looking for? Like spirit, right? Like you bring so much. You bring so much.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Thanks.
so much wisdom and lived experience.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. I thank you.
I've been very fortunate.
No, that kind of perspective, right? Like being able to find that you talk about turning pain into strength, you know. But I think one of the gifts that people who've experienced trauma have is that ability to really turn that you know, that the pain, the trauma into a gift,
Yes.
right? It's not many people understand how to do that, and I'm so glad that we have you to be able to help others learn how to do that.
Thanks.
We have run out of time, and I'm so sorry. I could talk to you forever.
Totally. There's so much I'd love to dig into, but you keep going.
Seriously.
I'm looking
No,
forward to part two. part two
Listen,
in 6 months.
Right. So, but for anybody who's watching this who wants to know more about Andrew, please check out the show notes below. Get in touch with him. He's phenomenal. He's a great speaker. Get his book, his food, his smoothies, everything. It's there's a lot, is elevating together because nobody here is alone. It does take a team. So this is Real Talk with Emma G. Raw. Mental health does sound like this. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great seeing you.
You too.